It's about time I went to Weather Zone and did a weather report on Melbourne. Oh, hang on. What have we got here? BS19 test requirement sensible for snow visitors, says infection control expert. An infection control expert, I keep using the term expert, believes it is sensible for Melbourne residents to be required to undergo a BS19 test before heading to alpine resorts. Yes, well, make the most of it because, was it last year, year before? Can't remember, put up a video. Climate change idiots are saying that there won't be any more snow again in Victoria by 2030. So you've got 9 years. You've got 9 years to go to the alpine resorts to where there's a lot of snow at the moment. The Victorian government announced on Wednesday that Melbourne visitors can travel to the snow on the condition they return a negative BS19 test in the 72 hours before their planned visit. God knows how they're going to monitor all this, but anyway, there we go. Infection control expert, there we go, expert, Professor Mary Louise McLaws. Have never heard of this person before. Never have we heard of Professor Mary Louise McLaws, but she is an expert. Said the rule was very sensible because, despite visitors spending a lot of time indoors, they would also be a lot of time outdoors, they would also be indoors resting within resorts. Melbourne has had the Delta and the Kappa, the worry Kappa strain. Delta is highly infectious, Professor McLaws said. It can be up to 70% more infectious than any wild strain. Who comes up with this shit? How do you determine the Delta, a Kappa, using PCR tests? Honestly, it's more infectious than the Alpha. So we've got the Alpha, Delta, and Kappa. Oh, fucking what? She said, Professor McLaws said warm indoor areas were the perfect environment for spreading infection, but said the virus did not discriminate. Oh, so not only in warm environments, but where it's freezing bloody cold at the ski resorts, the virus will not discriminate. Anyone who says the virus itself likes one temperature or one relative humidity doesn't quite understand that the virus hooks onto bigger droplets and also hooks onto the smaller particles. So it doesn't discriminate. It attacks big droplets and little droplets. Any droplets will do. Oh, fuck, this is laughable. Oh, but it's the expert, Professor McLaws. So it is not just about temperature and humidity. It is about being close to people. Oh. Questions have been raised as to whether those who are fully vaccinated should still need to be tested. Well, I would have thought if you're vaccinated, there's no point being tested. You're protected fully, aren't you? That's the idea of vaccines. The trials have proven that they are 100% protected from death and 100% protected from hospitalisation and severe infection. The trials have proven this. Really? What about the people who are dying? Don't worry about them. 100% protected from death and from hospitalisation. The trials which never happened. But we are only learning in the real world, phase 4 rollout, whether or not they are 100% protected from symptomatic or asymptomatic infection, and both of those conditions can cause transmission. Professor McLaws said, however, recent evidence from younger people who had received the Pfizer vaccine in Israel, my God, there's some shit happening there, and the US had shown that transmission would appear less likely, but not with the variant of concern, just with the less infectious variant. I don't know, it just mumbles on about absolutely nothing, makes no sense whatsoever. You should get tested because you may be one of those people who haven't developed a perfect response. However, there are some better tests because a lot can happen in 72 days. However, there are some better tests because a lot can happen in 72 hours. What the fuck is that all about? So virtually you're saying that the Vaseline don't work and you should get tested anyway. Shock and horror. Alpine Shire Council Mayor John Forsyth said he reacted with a bit of shock and horror to news that metropolitan visitors would have to undergo a BS19 test before attending the resorts. I don't blame him. Forsyth said resort operators were unaware the restriction was coming, but the main issue was how the requirement was going to be policed at the resorts and the extra stress it would place on already stretched businesses. That is going to be the interesting factor. And whether or not the government has thought this through, in particular the impost on businesses. Governments thought this through? Are you kidding? They're only going through a script. And the angst you're going to get with people continually asking, show me a green tick or show me whatever it is that you've got. Forsyth said he understood the reasoning behind the mandatory testing and said it was probably the correct thing to do. It's just how to manage it. That's what we've got to get through. Are you going to do it on postcodes, as they've done before, or how are they going to do it? I don't have a Melbourne postcode, so theoretically, I should be able to just go straight up there, but I'm going to have to stop and show where my postcode is anyway. Confusion continues. Victoria Cross-Border Commissioner Luke Wilson said he was unaware of how the BS19 testing requirements would be monitored in alpine areas. So if you roll up there, a long trip, whatever, how many hours, and you get there and they ask you if you've been tested, you say, no, what, you go, see you later, come straight back home. Anyway, I don't know what the arrangement is for doing that, he said. One thing I do know is that if you have a friend or someone from Melbourne intending to come up, they probably want to try and get the test the full 72 hours out. Wilson said he would encourage all travellers to have the test as early as possible before travelling to allow enough time for results to come back. We know sometimes the results happen within a day, but quite often it could take a couple of days, so you certainly wouldn't want to cut it fine. Oh, can you imagine it? Someone tests positive at a ski resort, so everyone has to come home. Yeah, God knows. The shit that's, it's beyond belief anyway. I was going to do a weather forecast, but even then, you can't do a weather forecast. It's all about BS19 wherever you go.